Okay, we are recording now. Okay, I think we're all set. Welcome to FBB Forum. I'm very pleased to welcome the beautiful IFBB Pro women's bodybuilder competitor, Gina Cavaliero. Did I pronounce that right?
Did. Perfect.
Okay, good. Gina has competed in bodybuilding since 2015 and earned her pro card in 2020. Unfortunately, Gina recently announced that she must retire from the sport due to some health issues, which we'll discuss more here. But welcome, Gina. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it.
David, I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you. So my first questions are just about how you got started in bodybuilding. And I was curious, did you have an athletic or sports background when you first started?
I've always been active in sports. I really wasn't active at the time that I started. I was actually very overweight and out of shape, and out of necessity needed to start exercising and getting in the gym, which I had done off and on my whole life. I was kind of like, you hear the term yo-yo dieter. I was a yo-yo gym goer.
Oh,
So, so at about 44, I was overweight. Blood pressure was high at that point. So I started going to the gym, and I had a farm at the time. I had a nonprofit I managed, and basically just really neglected my health, stayed up all night and worked. So I kind of the nonprofit, started sleeping, started exercising, and changed the way I ate all at one time to get things in check. And bodybuilding just kind of fell in my lap.
really?
So
That's terrific. Wow. So you made a big change in your life. That's great.
I did.
And yeah, the lack of sleep is probably not so good either. You need to get some sleep.
Absolutely. I mean, it was kind of like 2, 3 hours a night. I would stay up all
Oh,
night working on profit. Had to be up early to harvest on the farm. At like 3, 4 a.m. And you get used to that kind of schedule. You start to manage and function really well on it. But it health wise, it's horrible.
yeah, that's true. If you don't mind me asking, how old are you now?
I'm 54.
54? Oh, very cool. Yeah. So it's been 10 years since you kind of made that change, huh?
Yeah, so just about exactly.
Wow, that's terrific. Um, I was curious, like, how did you get started in bodybuilding and who convinced you to do your first contest?
Um, it was something I always wanted to do. I had kind of dabbled in it, I would say in my 30s. I had
Mhm.
trained really go anywhere with it. But I mean, I remember being 5 years old and flexing my biceps and thinking it was really cool to have muscle. So it was something that I was interested in my whole life. And at that time when I went back to the gym, it was just kind of like a happenstance meeting with the trainer at I was like, hey, I need to squat. Can we work in a set? And she started talking, and she's like, you've got a really great shape. You do well bodybuilding. And I was like, really? And I was at a point in my life when I could actually dig into it and do it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was a really good line to get a new client. It worked.
Oh,
But she became my first coach. She later got her pro card. And I stayed with her for a short while, but there really was no convincing to do my first show. It was more convincing of you need to work for about a year and a half before you should do your first show. I was ready to go immediately.
oh, I see. That's cool. Yeah. That's terrific though that you got involved and started working on it. And did you see body changes pretty quickly when you started working?
Rapidly. I mean, I build muscle very easily. So, and of course there's that muscle memory. Like I said, I've been in and out of the gym my whole life. I'd started lifting in my teens. So when
Oh,
I finally gym, it was always very quick. Within like a couple weeks, I would see changes. So that's always very motivating, and incentivizing to keep going. And then I had that goal of competing. And once I had that, it lit a fire. There was just no turning back after that.
that's terrific. That's really cool. I was curious when you first started competing, did you get nervous on stage? It seems like it will be kind of intimidating to get up on stage in a bikini for the first time.
You would think it would be. And actually, I wasn't. I wasn't in the greatest shape. I mean, upper body came in good, glutes and legs didn't. But I just got out there, and it was like this amazing moment. I couldn't stop smiling. I was smiling ear to ear. And a friend of mine that was an expediter, people that worked the stage backstage,
Mhm.
said, "I've never grinned so much doing a back double body because you realize you weren't facing the crowd with the judges. It's like I couldn't help it, so that's kind of what I'm known for. I'm like, hey, can I be known for my biceps? But every time people comment about my smile on stage, it's my happy place.
Oh, that's awesome. That's terrific. Yeah, that's a good sign when you're feeling that good on stage, and yeah, it's your happy place. That's awesome. Um, let's see. I just had a few questions about family. Do you have any kids? And if so, are they supportive of your fitness career?
Nope, never had any kids.
No kids?
No.
And I was curious in terms, are your parents still alive? And if so, are they supportive of your career, your fitness career?
Um, my parents passed. My mom some 20 years ago.
Okay,
So before my dad about 5 years ago, so he got to see the beginning of my career, and he was very supportive.
great.
He shows, but I would show him videos, and he loved it. He is kind of who I got into bodybuilding with in the beginning. We used to watch. It used to be on Wide World of Sports. You could
Yeah,
watch body Saturday afternoon. So I would watch with my dad and Arnold and Lou and Frank, and so he definitely was into it.
that's terrific. Oh yeah, I remember those days because I'm 49 and I remember ESPN and ABC and NBC used to cover bodybuilding back in the day. It's been a long
I
time.
returned to those times, right?
Yeah, definitely. I know. I just don't understand why ESPN will show cornhole and tag, but they don't show bodybuilding, and it kind of bugs
Oh,
me.
lapping contests now too. I mean, but
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there's that whole documentary show about slap fights and like, what? It's weird. Um, so I want to talk to you a little bit about, retirement from bodybuilding, and you had just announced it recently on Instagram and elsewhere, I believe, that you had to retire from bodybuilding due to a health problem. I was wondering if can you elaborate on what happened to you health-wise?
yeah, so I've had an ongoing thyroid condition started in 2020. It's when it
Mm,
started really noticeable. 2021, it was more problematic
mm,
after the season. My thyroid was just kind of destroyed.
mm,
Um, doctors were saying I had thyroid cancer. They were talking about having to remove my thyroid. Fortunately, it wasn't. But I had like an autoimmune response, and it was kind of like drug induced. We use T3, T4 thyroid hormones in prep.
mm.
Um, a little bit too much of one of those, and it kind of just set my thyroid off.
Oh,
So it happens a lot of times with thyroid conditions. If you're hyperthyroid, it increases blood pressure. So I had
mm,
that issue in one. We got it regulated. We got everything back in check.
mm,
Um, through the beginning of last year, it looked really good. And then towards the end of last year, it went really bad again.
mm,
So, I was getting ready to do a prep this year. So I did my labs and, went to see my doctor with it. And again, we discovered my thyroid was not in good condition. And,
mm,
of course, being able to check your blood pressure. And he's like, do you have hypertension? I was like, no, not normally. But it was really high at the doctor's office. So
mm,
he told me to get and start checking it a few times a day. So I did, and the very next day it was really, really high. So high to the point where I Googled what to do when your blood pressure is this high, and it said seek medical attention immediately.
um,
I also which he responded right away, and he said please get to an ER immediately. So I did go. They gave me some medication, IV medication to get my blood pressure down.
mm.
Um, Came down, they sent me home, and I was back at the ER about 3 hours later. So it went right back up.
Wow.
Um,
Mm,
I've seen a cardiologist. We did all the cardiology tests. My heart's healthy. But basically because of the thyroid, my body is having a really hard time regulating my blood pressure.
I see. Yeah. Mm,
Um, that makes trying to do a prep really dangerous,
yeah.
even though
Mm,
well, now there's just so many things that I would use in a prep that elevate heart rate, elevate blood pressure. So, you know, I could try it. My doctor said he would monitor it. Um, part of me would love to, but it's not worth the risk.
Yeah.
We always say health first, and being a coach, that's something I preach to my athletes, and I got to live what I preach. So,
Yeah, I totally understand that. Yeah, I'm so sorry about that though. Is it kind of because the stage is your happy place? That's got to be kind of heartbreaking for you, you know?
it absolutely was. I'm not gonna lie. There was a good few days, a week or so, where I was challenged. I lost my direction. This doing for 10 years. That was always my objective and goal.
Hmm.
Um, so, a good friend of mine said, you know, you don't have to like it, but you have to accept it.
Hmm.
It's, that spoke volumes to me. And,
Yeah.
if that distraught about it, then you don't have a plan B. And I said, well, no, actually I do. I've always had a plan B. And that was always, once I was done competing, I would continue coaching, which I've been a coach for several years. But I would, transition to coaching. I don't even want to say full time because that's what I do full time, but 100% focus on my athletes and not having to focus on myself and my own prep, because I coach myself as well.
Yeah.
So, it's sometimes the universe kind of accelerates things and kind of puts you in a different path. So essentially, it's just trusting that the universe and God is saying, hey, it's time for you to really focus in on coaching and being
Mhm.
their 100% athletes. Um, and, time to hang up the suit. So
Yeah.
I'm okay. It took a little bit getting there and getting my head right around it, but
Mhm.
uh, I I love coaching, and I can absolutely live vicariously through my athletes. You talked to one of them very recently, Leah Denny, and getting to help them put their best on stage and succeed. I mean, it's right up there with me getting up there myself. And I've recently admitted I'm probably a far better coach than I ever was an athlete. So it's just time for me to really excel there.
That's awesome. Yeah, and you yeah, the feedback Leah gave as you as a coach was really, really terrific. So yeah, I think you can live vicariously through them. And I think, yeah, that sounds like a good path going forward, for sure. I was curious, like how much longer were you hoping to compete, before you were kind of forced to retire?
I was looking at, I mean, realistically, 1 to 2 years.
Hmm.
I feel like I never really had my breakout great year as a pro.
Yeah.
The It'd been hampered by health the whole time,
Hmm.
so I was just wanting a really good couple of years. I was hoping to get an invite to Masters Olympia. Um, you know, but so realistically, it would have been no longer than 2 years, maybe three at the most. But
Sure.
so
Yeah. Yeah, I understand that. No, yeah, no, I think that's great that you're going to continue with the coaching though, and that yeah, and get a good spate of athletes and help them out, and guide them. I think that's great. Um, I was curious, you mentioned Leah, but I was curious if there's any other great coaching clients that you'd like to mention here, or if not, if you don't want to single out anybody, but that's fine too.
Well, I have to say all of my clients are amazing. It's cool. I get to work with top level pros, and then for some reason I get these green first timers, and I love it.
Yeah,
And taking some, not even really being the bodybuilder build and transforming them into a bodybuilder and putting them on stage for the first time. It's ultimately it's incredible. It's cool. Um,
yeah.
but some of the blessed to work with. Of course, Hella Trevino,
Oh yeah.
one of my best. So, that's the reason I'm in Dubai. She was here last year, came here to train
Okay.
after surgery last year, and just really had a hard time developing her upper body after the shoulder surgery. It just didn't recover really well.
Sure.
So was familiar with a what's called neuromuscular stimulation. So I purchased a machine, an NX Pro. It happened to be manufactured where I was from in Tampa, and I knew the people that worked with it, and I knew what it could do. So I bought the machine, came to Dubai, and in 3 months helped her just totally rebuild her mass and her size and her shape, and she got third at the Olympia. I also ended up prepping her the last few weeks. She decided to move on from the coach she was with, and absolutely one of my, shining moments. Even Sandy Williamson, head judge, said that that was the best she'd seen Hella. So that
Yeah.
was really awesome. I work with Michelle Brent, who is
Oh yeah.
65, still going. Just it is mind blowing her physique that she has.
Yeah.
We're hoping, a master's invite there, which to me, Michelle's the epitome of a master's athlete.
Yeah.
Her last year as well, and so we're working this year again. So, and other athletes I work in the gym with as well. If it's not just prep coaching, it's also training in neuromuscular stem, working with Sergio Olivia now.
Mhm.
Um, so we've got a lot of and some other exciting athletes coming up too.
That's so terrific. Yeah. I remember Michelle being on the ESPN shows like back in the day, like in the late 80s and 90s. Yeah, she's amazing.
She's been the mainstay in bodybuilding.
Yeah, she has. She's amazing. And I've heard about that NX. I know Sherry Priami has shown videos where she's gotten that done, and it looks really interesting. It looks like it might be kind of painful, but it's not painful.
No, it's not. It's stimulating. I wouldn't call it painful. Um, but yeah, so she works actually with my mentor, Chris Williams, that's there in Tampa as well.
Yeah,
So,
very cool. Um, I was wanted to see. I was curious that is there any possibility now that you're retired from the sport that you might do judging or promoting bodybuilding shows?
um, I looked at judging. I think it's 2020. It was when COVID set in, and it was too chaotic for them to actually bring test judges to. They could barely even get 9 to 10 judges at the table at that time.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't think I'll pursue it again. I I of course want to be as involved as I can in the sport, but I think there would be eventually just a conflict, being a coach
Mhm.
and being a judge at the time. The sport's never seen really a top female coach. All the
Mhm.
coaches, Hani, George, Matt Jansen, Shelby Starnes, they've all been men.
Yeah.
So I want to be the first woman coach to excel and be up there with those guys. So that's really going to be my focus going forward. Show promotion certainly is something I've considered,
Okay.
and a couple other people that we've talked about partnering up with it. Um, but that too, I think that could be something that in the next 10 years I might get into.
Okay. Great. Yeah. I understand about judging. Yeah. I kind of have a conflict of interest because you'd be biased toward your athletes probably. And in terms of yeah, the promotion, I was surprised. I didn't realize that Leah Denny had done promoting shows too, and I thought that was really cool.
Texas Pro used to be her show.
Yeah, I had no idea. That's really neat. Yeah, she's really terrific. Um, so I wanted to talk about your competition days, and I was curious, what was your favorite bodybuilding show that you competed in? I'm just curious.
Um, I guess probably when I won my pro card, I did Miss International, which is also at the same time as Chicago Pro,
Yeah.
and it's really let the winners from Miss International, lightweight, heavyweight, compete immediately after in the Chicago Pro. So you
Uh-huh.
basically sign your contract, pay your IFBB dues to be a pro, and then you step on stage with pros, an hour later, which was incredible because, I was stepping on stage with the people I looked up to,
Yeah.
um, immediately after. So that was probably the highlight of my career. I've always loved the Tampa Pro. I love Tim Gardner. He's an amazing promoter. And being from Tampa, I always did it, even as an amateur. Then I did it, as a pro.
Uh-huh.
And he's so well organized, and he's always been a big supporter for female bodybuilding. Of course, we've got Jake Wood and Wings of Strength,
Yeah.
and then we've had there along with him, always promoting us.
Yeah, I live in Tampa, and Tampa Pro is an excellent show, and it's great having it right here locally. And last year I went to Chicago Pro and I did see the Ms. International, and that's great. I like how, yeah, the winners get to go on stage, a few hours later the next day, and that's really neat.
So it's pretty unique.
Yeah, it is. I like that. Um, I was curious, when you were competing, what feedback from judges did you get in terms of where you needed to improve your physique?
It was always legs, quad sweep, bring in my waist.
Mhm.
Back. I have a strong back, strong upper body, arms, but I tend to not have that aesthetic shape that they so much want nowadays in women's bodybuilding,
Mhm.
and what's winning. So if you're a little bit thicker waisted, then we can certainly do some things to try to bring the waist in, and then we can other do things that optically make the waist look smaller. So
Yeah.
more lat, more shoulder, the broader you get up top, and kind of create that X frame. So it was always the same feedback every show. And of course, early on when I was first getting started, it was better conditioning. Um, sometimes starting out the first year or so, it's hard. It takes a little while for your body to figure out what you're doing to it,
Yeah.
and to where it's like, what the heck are we doing? And then after you do it a couple years in a row, your body figures it out, and it gets I'm not gonna say necessarily easier, but I would say your body just knows what the routine is at that point.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I could see that your body, like, what the heck, because it
You
is.
are, why are you trying to kill me? So
It is pretty extreme. I mean, yeah, and yeah, it makes sense that it would take a little while for the body to get used to it too. So, um, I was curious, like, what, in terms of your physique, what's your favorite muscle group and what's your least favorite?
to look at or to train.
Oh, I guess well, both maybe, look at and train.
Well, so like I've always joked that I can just pick up a glass of water 10 times a day and my biceps will grow. That's my claim to fame has been my arms.
Yeah.
So my arms and my back are my best features. But as far as like, I can never really identify a favorite muscle group to train in the gym. I love them all.
Mhm.
There's not one like any more than the other. And there's not one that I was like, oh God, I got to train legs. I'm like, all right, it's leg day. I'm excited.
That's cool. They're very cool. Yeah, your back and arms really do stand out, and your upper body for sure. Yeah. Um, Now you mentioned about Heli and Dubai, but what convinced you to move from Tampa to Dubai? And I was curious if you found a supportive bodybuilding community there.
Yeah, so when I came to Dubai last year, it was, the intention to help Hella, but it was also to see if I liked it here.
Mhm.
I had, when I was in Tampa, I had a farm there. I sold it with the intention of ideally I was going to move to California where Hella was because we were considering starting a business together.
Mm.
But going to Cancun, it was a vacation initially, but that's where she injured her shoulder and had surgery.
Okay.
So rather than going to Venice, I went to Cancun and ended up staying there for about 6 months.
Oh, wow.
Considering living there, of course it's inexpensive to live in Mexico, but it didn't have like the amenities I needed as a bodybuilder. It was hard to find bodywork therapists and things like that.
Mhm.
Um, Great. I ended up having shoulder surgery there as well. But it just wasn't really conducive for competing.
Okay.
So when I came to Dubai, it was absolutely with the intention of let me check it out. I knew I was going to be here 3 months and see if I like it, see if the bodybuilding, community is here, and it's actually incredible, and it's growing.
Hmm.
Um, my trainer, Venus, is just an incredible gym. It's huge. It has, I still haven't touched every machine in the place yet.
Wow.
Um, there's just so much to choose from, and really you can really dial in your training. So both as a trainer and as an athlete, I love the diversity that I have there at my disposal. And I mean, Dubai is it's a cool place. I've
Yeah.
never had to live in a high rise. I'm on the 21st floor, so I get this really cool view, and there's the beach is 15 minutes drive for me, which I love going to the beach. So
Yeah.
it's just a good fit for me.
That's great. No, that's terrific. Was there any immigration issues or anything like that, or did it work out okay with visas and all that good stuff?
So I actually just got my 2-year visa, so a work visa. So essentially, um, businesses can sponsor you. So a friend was able to, get me connected with somebody that was willing to sponsor me for 2 years. So I've got that just got it approved today.
Hmm.
So which is nice. I don't have to worry about, U.S. visas are 60 days for visitors, and then you can renew for 30 for 1 or 2 times, and then after that you have to do like a border run, or get on a plane. You don't have to really go anywhere. You get on the plane, step off, and come right back. But
Okay.
that can get to have to do that every 30 days. Not to mention it's just a hassle.
Yeah.
So set for 2 years. I'll probably eventually establish a business here.
Yeah.
That will be the step in order to establish my own visa.
Hmm.
But I just wanted to make sure I was going to stay. So right now I'm pretty committed to being here at least 2 years.
Okay.
Having the visa also opens up other avenues, like a longer term lease. I've had to rent month to month, which is more expensive. I can
Hmm.
finally get a banking here. I can get what's called an Emirates ID.
Hmm.
So it's being here more, just easier.
Sure. I was curious with the time difference, is it tough to coach the American clients? It's probably better for European clients, I would think, if you have any of those, but just because there's a 9 hour difference and stuff, it
So
could be.
9 hours, it's 12 hours to like Vegas. I think it's 14 to California. Um, sometimes it gets a little challenging, but I've kind of gotten my routine where I train late. Like I just got home from the gym, so I'm usually not at the gym until 6 or 7.
Okay.
So I've become quite the night owl. So I'm up till like 2 a.m. and then I sleep, till late morning. So
Hmm.
being late facilitates me being able to, communicate with my clients in the States. So it works out.
It works out okay. That's great. Yeah. And is Helly still living in Dubai?
No, she's currently, I think she's back in Sweden. She's kind of touring Europe. She definitely, spent some time in Denmark back home. I think it'd been like almost 5 years since she'd been home.
Oh, wow.
So to visit family and friends. I think she's back in Sweden visiting Irene Anderson. She's going to Switzerland. So she's just kind of doing the Europe thing for a bit. I'm sure at some point she'll probably come to Dubai and at least visit, but I don't think she's going to come back to stay.
Okay, sure. I understand. That's great. That's so cool that you work with her and yeah, that you're able to get her stage ready kind of on short notice, was really impressive, I think. And that
Because,
that
but I mean, I tell her often I don't know anybody else that could have done it. I mean,
yeah,
she's an incredible athlete.
well, she had a good coach behind her, so that helped too. So um now I was curious with in Dubai, can you like show off your muscles in public? Because I know some Muslim countries are pretty restrictive on women's attire, but I think Dubai is a little bit more open than most Muslim cities, probably.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very progressive and, if you will, liberal here for a Muslim, city, Islamic. So yeah, we don't have to, cover up. We don't have to wear head covering, and at the gym, I mean, girls are dressed just like they would in the States,
Mhm.
booty shorts and sport bras. So
Hmm.
there's an issue there. I mean, you have to be. certainly more discreet with like public displays of affection. You don't see that like you would in the States. I can't. You can cuss, but you can't cuss at someone. It's
Okay.
actually like something that could risk going to jail for.
Okay.
For so there's not the crazy road rage. It happens to a degree here, but there's nobody's giving the bird or anything like that or screaming at you. And people drive insane here. That was definitely an adjustment in
Really?
ways that I've ever seen in my life. And it's like it's the kind of thing like if you miss your turn, you're like, oh my God, 20 minutes out of the way now to go up and come back.
Oh,
Um, that's probably one and only thing that I don't like about Dubai is the traffic's insane.
really? Yeah. It's built up so quickly there. I'm sure it's pretty congested and people
It
don't
is.
necessarily know where they're going because they're all new to the town.
And apparently this is like the worst time of the year because the weather is beautiful right now. I
Yeah.
guess when time everybody leaves, so then the traffic's not so bad. So I haven't been here for a summer. This will be my first summer this year, so I get to experience how bad it really is.
Oh, yeah, but it'll be hot too. So yeah. No, that's so cool though. Yeah, I bet it would be interesting living there. And do you find it generally more expensive, like for food and rent and stuff versus the States?
Some things are more expensive. Food's a little bit pricier. But when I was in Vegas for the Olympia in December, it seemed like it was really expensive there as well. As
Hmm.
far as it depends. I mean, if you can live as bougie as you want to here and spend a fortune,
Hmm.
or some places like I have a studio, and you can find them for $900 a month, which
Hmm.
rental prices in Tampa skyrocketed a year ago.
Yeah.
I could studio in Tampa for that price, and
Mm.
what you get here amenity wise, I've got a gym, pool, sauna, steam room, you know, it's secured. It's a secured big building. So I think amenity wise, you just get a lot more for your money.
Hmm. That's really cool. That's nice. Yeah, Tampa has the rent has gotten a lot higher here and everything's gotten a lot higher here. It's getting a little crazy. I was curious, like if you're just walking like in a tank top down the street, because um, I was curious, do you get like stares because just people aren't used to seeing women with muscles there, or I was just curious if what that's like in Dubai.
So yeah, I walk around in tank tops all the time, and I do get stared at. But it's a bit different. I rarely have noticed like a disparaging look. Um, Islamic in general. There's a lot of Indians, Pakistanis here, and they really appreciate women with muscles. So
Hmm. Cool.
instead of sideways glance and like the nasty look, they're actually, oh, you female bodybuilder, I want to they want to talk to you. You know, um,
Great.
Taxi drivers or just even walking down the street. So it's I feel it's more you're received better here.
That's terrific. That's really cool. That's great. That's good to hear that too. I didn't necessarily expect that you would say that, but that's neat. Yeah, but I think Dubai is different than other countries too, or other cities in the Middle East too. So
It's kind of like its own little bubble of, a progressive in the middle of a not so progressive area.
yeah, I understand. Um, I was just curious, like, if you were in a leadership position with IFBB or NPC, what would you do to improve the sport of bodybuilding, and how would you make the sport better?
Um, I think I would love to see better promotion for the women's sports. There's a huge, when it comes to the pro level and in prize money, a huge disparity between what the men earn and the women earn.
Yeah.
And we're putting in the same amount of work. Now, I
Hmm.
do related to sponsor money and seats that are filled. But I would love to see some like really good promotional marketing campaigns to bolster bodybuilding in general,
Hmm.
and women's side of it. I think that could potentially, you know right now. I think women are kind of seeing the women of size, physique and up in bodybuilding. You know, we have a very limited audience,
Mhm.
and I think a way to market that to more people and make it more palatable to more people that we're just like everybody else. We just have muscles.
Mhm.
So I'd love to see that happen.
That's great. No, I think that's terrific. That's actually kind of part of the reason I do this podcast is I've been told I kind of humanize the bodybuilders and which I think that's terrific. And I think yeah, women bodybuilders are a little misunderstood and I don't think get enough respect, in terms of the shows that are available, there's shows being cut back. And then yeah, the prize money is definitely kind of dismal when you compare it to some of the other divisions. So yeah, so no, I totally agree with you on that.
And that's great. I love what you're doing. Anything that can help to promote female bodybuilding, to a bigger audience. It's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been a long time fan and kind of got talked into doing this podcast, and it's been working out really good so far. So I'm really pleased. So thank you. Um, I just had one more question for you. When you were competing, did you find it tough mentally, to cope from that kind of the bulking phase to the lean competition phase, and vice versa? Because I think that's something, mentally all women bodybuilders kind of go through, but I was curious how did you experience that?
Yeah, I mean, the mentally it wasn't hard going from the bulking phase to the leaning phase because that's where I wanted to be.
Hmm.
Um, the post show, when the lines and the definition starts blurring and going away. Um, yeah, early on in the first few years, I really, really struggled with it. You know, I finally found my peace with it, and it's just, of course, we can't. You probably heard this 100 times that it's just not healthy to maintain that level of conditioning and be that lean all the time, particularly
Yeah,
for women. Um, so, and after a while, you it's a lot about body image um, and loving yourself and self-esteem. I was always overweight my whole life, and of course, hated my body and the way I looked. And
hmm,
bodybuilding, that for starters, you can't fix or change something you hate.
yeah,
So you have to find that self-love, and you don't work out to punish yourself. You do it because you love yourself and you want to
hmm,
be healthy. So it takes time to really process through that stuff and get to a point where we can be healthy about our body image, and whether it's a little soft or a little bigger in the off season as opposed to when we're shredded. you know um you find how you can be happy with whatever look that you have at the time.
sure. That's good. That's really good advice and good message, I think, for people watching this. Yeah, I appreciate that. So I was just curious, is there anything that I should have asked you but neglected to?
I don't know, you pretty much covered it really well. You know, I can't think of anything else really.
Okay, well, thank you so much. And yeah, definitely miss seeing you on stage, but I'm glad that you'll still be behind stage and helping out these great competitors. And I love your goal too of being, the top woman coach, because I think you've already kind of getting there, in terms of the clients you've got. You got some excellent clients and they obviously love you too. So you're doing a great job.
Appreciate that.
And I was curious, would you do like a quick flex for me?
Of course, I gotta back up. It's so big.
Oh, I know. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, legendary biceps. You look great. Um,
Thank
Thank you so much. I'll get this posted soon, and I'll include your Instagram, and if it's okay, I'll include Leah and Helly too at the bottom too. Um,
Absolutely.
and
Throw Michelle,
oh,
maybe even
Michelle
see if you.
too.
I'm sure Michelle would love to talk to you as well. She's a hoot. She's very entertaining. I'm sure you would like interviewing her.
I would love to. Yeah, I've been watching her for a long time. She's awesome. I was curious too, are you accepting new clients?
I absolutely am.
Okay, cool. That's good. It's a good thing for folks listening to know too. So, but thanks again, Gina. I really appreciate it. And we'll get this posted soon.
Thanks, David. All right. Have a good rest of your day.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.